With the Stenbach, there's a few things that Tom does naturally that, or he was already doing, which were things that I had been doing over the years to my instruments, such as pushing pole pieces through on pickups to radius them against the fingerboard. Until this bass, I was generally always playing a 4-string and then would pick up a 5 to do the 5-string tune. But this is just like an extension of a 4-string for me, and whatever the equation, the overall equation from what Tom is doing, just makes it an instrument that feels connected. It doesn't feel like 4 strings with an extra string. Everything kind of relates to the sound and qualities of the previous string, and it all feels natural on my right hand. It's a kind of a recognizable feeling instrument, but it just has a great evenness and enough of a modern quality through it to kind of give it some presence, but it still has a nice passive, what I would say kind of old school kind of mojo to it.
An instrument that's made to behave in a certain way and that works in that way actually will work even if you change materials or if you change pickups, or it will still work. It might not be that you kind of squeezed everything out of it, but it's never due to that one thing. Is it American older, or is it European older, or is it just how it's put together as an instrument, and how it works together as a whole unit.
That kind of responsiveness that you can imagine from something like the real deal envelope filter against a simulated thing that's just going to respond and give a certain sine wave that's maybe been matched up to sound like a particular one-off given note on the real deal. I think that can kind of be brought to how you feel when you play an instrument and you kind of play a certain note. You kind of hear how it responds. You know, you hear how it just how the pickup starts and how the tone control works. You know, or even you know, you can. Just how the note is going to bloom a little bit, but you won't necessarily be able to notice that. It's when you're playing it that you kind of notice it, you know. So some of that I think is the thing that when you pick up a bass or a guitar or anything, it's that kind of where the priority is in his head.
Just to add to kind of when you're talking about kind of specs and details, to one of kind of my main objective in one way is also to have everything is deliberate. It's thought out. You could point to any detail or any part of the instrument or any kind of single detail, and I can, you know, there's a reason to why everything is done in a certain way. I think that creates a kind of a single unit in a way that becomes a very natural whole.
The necks feel amazing. You know, there's body to the neck. It doesn't feel like a lollipop kind of thing. Spacing feels nice. It's kind of pretty much 4-string spacing, but doesn't feel too bulky. And it's obviously clearly just a kind of a classic design on a Fender Jazz style instrument, but that being passive, and I do just generally prefer passive basses, and I know for me, for what I'm looking for, that they 99% of the time sound better. And I know that there are some instruments that need the active, it's the actives that save the bass, almost, and I've possibly got some instruments like that I kind of think without something engaging it or being added to it, it doesn't quite do the job. But my best and most favourite instruments just do it anyway without needing any actives. And I don't really like, even when people say, oh, the active isn't changing anything. You can hear straight away that the top end changes. I don't like the zinginess of the battery boosting. That, you know, I like a bit of signal loss down the cable, and I'm only bothered about what comes out of the speaker at the end of the day. I'm not really too bothered about how it gets there, but I like it to sound pretty natural. And that doesn't mean I want it to sound all wiry and stringy and no kind of... I'd automatically usually go and bump the bottom end a little bit on the amp, or hope that the engineer will do that. But even that's quite minimal. So just looking for a passive instrument that's got some natural body, so that you know that if you want to add some EQ to it, it's going to sound great. The strings, I'll kind of keep them semi-new, so maybe they'll kind of be like 6 weeks old before they get changed. But I got into a little thing where I'd kind of put some moisturiser on my hands and kind of deaden them quickly. Take a little bit of the extra zing out. But these are these Dunlop Super Brights, which I've got to say, sorry Daryl, that's the only thing I don't like about them. The fact that it implies that they're going to be super bright, because that would put me off straight away. But the nickels are really kind of playable. Have you played them? I don't know if you like them or not, but they're incredibly tactile, aren't they? They're kind of, and the nickels actually are the first nickel string that's worked for me, because they've got enough. There's easily enough top end there, but the B string kind of responds nice and comfortably. It doesn't kind of sound like an afterthought. That kind of, it's complete. It sounds like it's related to the same instrument. Sorry, the bass pickup wasn't on.